Welcome to KDKP Noire. I'm K Noire, and today we're talking about the continuing NewJeans saga. What has happened or transpired since the last video that I put out? Well, they're back. Yes, they are back. And much to a lot of people's surprise, it is really just intriguing how they came back. Um, we all know that they had to file an appeal, I think by the 14th, 13th or 14th of November in the courts, and they didn't do it. They announced their comeback the day before yesterday, and it sent people in a frenzy. And I mean, people were happy, and then others were outraged just to find out that they were even being given the opportunity to come back. And that caused a lot of confusion for a lot of fans. Now, I do understand why it transpired and how it took place. Haein and Haerin, with theirs going officially through a door and how it was announced, their comeback was announced. And then I saw as well too how the other three, theirs was a little bit skeptical and left people to wonder if like Adore was even going to take them back. So let's get into it. Um, First, I must say that I am not a legal representative of, NewJeans, Adore, Hyde, anybody of the girls. Um, I think that, when you look at it, Hani, Danielle, and Minji, when they were talking, they were very adamant and loyal. You could see their loyalty and support for Min Hee Jin and what was actually transpiring with the group and how they wanted to continue to go forth. So I see the division already. I saw it months ago already. But that's just me. That's just my opinion. Doesn't mean a thing. However, we do see officially now the division with the girls. And it leaves people to question, like, what is really going to happen here? Are they coming back as a 5-member girl group? I don't know. That is a big question. Can they? Probably can. Will Adore accept them? I don't know. Legally, we know that with Haein and Haerin, with them coming back officially through Adore and saying that they were going to be working with them officially, they work with their parents and they come through different agreements and things like that. We know that they are official. They're done. They're actually two dedicated members that will be back. The other three, Menji, Connie, and Danielle, it's a different story because the statement that was put out by Adore was that they were questioning really I guess, the validity or the sincerity of the statement that the girls made. And I can see why, because they know that those three, specifically those three, they're the older ones, were, very dedicated to Min Hee Jin. So, and very adamant that they were not coming back. So to bring them back, I do see how, Adore would have to have that sense of, you know, confidence that, hey, this is going to work. Now, there were other speculations in the news where people were saying, well, they need to apologize to Islet, to the Seraphim, to BTS. I think that Hype would have to put out a statement, um, letting them know that everybody's coming back and kind of set the stage for that. I think that if the girls, if they had it in their agreements or whatever their comeback, agreement is with Hive, that they needed to apologize, I believe that they should in their own way, whatever works for them, because of the allegations that were brought to the table that kind of started all this stuff. And when you look at it, you just say like, okay, if they apologize, is that going to be enough? I can tell you that in most situations that there's going to always be something. I mean, something. Because even though the apologies are made and people think the air is clear and you do all of that to be contractually obligated and be in, good standing within your contract, you make all the apologies and you put all the stuff out here. Nobody is having to deal with the day to day but these girls. Like, it is going to be uncomfortable, probably in a sense, to be in the same building with the same people that they had allegations against, to be in the same elevators, to be in the same cafeterias, maybe even the same dance studios. You never know, um, or recording studios with them. And, it leaves the question that even if they get the apology, then what? You know, you can tell me you're sorry 1,000 times over, but it's the actions that go along with that apology that make the world's difference. Because if you're just saying something just to be saying it, to be contractually obligated, and to say, I'm in good standing, I said I'm sorry to them, and let's move on and make music. Okay, great. However, at some point, you're going to have to come in direct contact with these people, and your actions are going to show what you really meant. Did you really mean what you said? And that's going to be a question that's going to come up. And that kind of poses a really, really big question mark for a lot of people. Some people don't believe that the other three members are sincere um, in their comeback. I don't know. There was a statement that was put out by Min Hee Jin where she said that she was wishing all five of them the best with, in their endeavors, which was a great to be said. And she wished them, you know, all the best with everything. But you have to question that too, because if that was the case and it was so easy to come out and just say that, then why not have done that 6 months ago? We're not even talking a whole year. We're talking 6 months, even 3 months ago. I don't even care. But at the end of the day, if it was just so easy to just come out and say that, why not have said it at that time and let these girls come back and start in their careers, getting their careers back on track? Because at the end of the day, it's a lot of money on the table contractually for all of them. Had they not, or had they continued to not, come back to Adore, I think, Adore held their end of the contract, their end of the deal up. They validated what their plans were, what their intentions were with NewJeans. Now, will this, be impacted or make a deep impact, later on? Will Adore step up to the plate and say, okay, we got this album for you, which they have said. They said they're ready to start working with them to, record, to do an album, to do their promotional activities and everything. So if they are doing that, they're ready and they're positioned to do that. Are we now talking two? Are we now talking five that they're going to do that with? That's a big question. And, you know, can those other three girls commit to, coming back and doing it and not having any contact with Min Hee Jin? That's another question that's lingering because there are a lot of questions. But they're like, will they cut all ties with Min Hee Jin? Is that part of the contract? Is that part of the language? Nobody knows. We don't know. However, I would think that they would have some type of stipulation in there that says that they can't have that kind of contact with her while they're working for Adore, because that would cause a complete conflict of interest, and it would cause pretty much disagreements across the board. There would always be some type of interaction or interjection into the creative aspect of who these girls are or what they will continue to do. So I'm just interested in finding out, like, what is next? Like, what will be the outcome for them? Um, some people are speculating, saying, they could be like 50-50. I said that in the last video. And if you haven't checked that out, that's part 2 of legality versus loyalty. And I said that the only time that we've seen this really, and it actually worked, was when 50-50 had the contract dispute and the allegations and things that came out. I think it was in 2023. Where they were, just not happy with their label Attract. But what we found out later was that one girl came back in return, but they replaced all the others. So they're still operating up under 50-50. They're still, doing their promotional activities. They're still putting out album songs and everything else as 50-50, but there's only one, original member. So it can be done if Adore decided to do that. But the other question still remains too: is NewJeans more valuable with all five of them? like they were before. Because before, they were worldwide, you know, really worldwide superstars where they were viewed in a lot of audience. I know here in America, we saw them on Dick Clark's New Year's Eve celebration, which you don't see a lot of K-pop artists on there. I think we saw BTS a couple of years back, but girl groups we didn't see. So they were having that stardom. You saw them in Calvin Klein ads, Dior ads, Gucci ads, I think. um like they had a Coca-Cola, iPhone. They had all these endorsements. Will that continue? I don't know. That's something to think about too, because you know eh, if they don't bring all of them back, then those endorsements probably won't continue. But if they don't bring all of them back either, let's just say hypothetically, legally, that if Adore said, no, we're going to cut ties with Minji, Hani, and Danielle. That means that there's a lot of money that has to be forfeited, um, for you know a lot of things, with those brand deals and ambassadorships and things like that. But there's also a lot of money that has to be paid back to the label. They can terminate the contract, but I think it's still going to require those girls to pay out tremendous amounts to break that contract. So either way, I don't think Hype, it's hard to say. Some people say, well, they don't have anything, to lose, and that's probably true. They do and they don't. I think they want to, with what they've gone through over the past year, I think they want to give these girls the benefit of the doubt and try to do that. But again, that loyalty has to outweigh, um, that they have to pull that out from Min Hee Jin and bring it back to Adore. Because now you're in a legal stance, and you are coming back and you're saying you're going to meet all the legal requirements that we have now put on the table. You're in agreement with it. You're coming back. You're going to start working. We're going to start promoting you in 2026 or whenever. I think they might get them out a little sooner. I think they'll end up on one of these award shows that they have in Korea, Japan, and things like that at the end of the year. But it makes you wonder, you know, do they not have anything to lose if they just brought two of them back and they replaced the other three? It's a lot of questions, and people are waiting on pins and needles just to see. And I'm just here, just providing, just my opinion. Again, this is all this is. But at the end of the day, I am very happy to see that, the two youngest ones were the ones that, worked it out with their parents and stood up and went back for the betterment and the good of what their careers are going to be. And the other ones follow suit. So that says a lot about those girls. And it says a lot about the group. I mean, they've gone through a lot over the past year, and I think they're going to continue to do well no matter what. But we're just waiting to see what that's going to be in. But until then, we'll come back and bring you what else we get. Until next time, thanks for joining.